Bollinger Band. It basically calculates a probability of prices ranging under a range level that is calculated based an average price over a specific number of occurrences. Sounded complicated. Let's make a very simple chart. João, please.
Does it work as kind of a Bell risk?
It doesn't work. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah, the VAR.
Yeah.
It's calculated in a completely different fashion, but it shows you the same concept. VAR shows you that if your VAR is $1,000, you have 5% of losing that. That's VAR. It shows you the probability of losing at the maximum the result of your VAR. Bollinger Band doesn't show you that. It shows you the same probability, 95% of prices ranging in that price range. For instance, you have an average price for the past 20 occurrences of 10. And then Bollinger Band will calculate that based on a standard deviation calculation, that you have an upper band of 12 and a lower band of 80 or 8, for instance. Those 12 and 8. That shows you that prices should range 95% of the time inside that range of 8 and 12. Oops! What happened there? When you have the closing price, remember guys, the closing price is the most important one. If you have the closing price of the 1 hour candle closing up or outside the upper band of the Bollinger Band, you are under the 5% probability of a trend range. So prices should fall into that 95% probability again. So what do you have there? A sell opportunity. Because price has now 95% of probability of getting back into that trade range and to reach at least its moving average of 10. That's perfect. If you think of that and you trade only that, you have 95% of making money. Whenever you see a closing price, closing obviously, outside the upper band, and again, it's like a mirror, the opposite is always true. And then you set up, you create your setup based on that. And you apply in the market. And 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by, and your trading account gets a drawdown. You say it's not working. Because that will only work when the market is trendless. Bollinger Band also calculates or measures, better saying, the volatility. If you have prices in a short-term trendless movement. You have your support, and then you have Bollinger Bands doing like this. Oops. Bollinger Band like this. This is it's a short-term trendless movement. It's happening the 15-minute chart. You don't care about that because the distance between the support and resistance of that trendless movement is like 30 pips. You won't trade that. But prices then does this. Breaks up, breaks down the support, pulls back to it, and the bearish trend line resumes. During that trendless period, what is happening with the volatility? What's happening with the liquidity of the market? Gabriel is not trading it, Isabel is not trading it. Most participants are out of the market, waiting for a breakout of the support of the resistance. So have low liquidity and low volatility. That's why the Bollinger Band is close to the price. When you have a breakout of the support, Gabriel is watching it. He sees that, he sells. João sells as well. Jonas as well. Me and Montiel, we do that as well. So liquidity starts to increase, as well as the volatility. What happens with the Bollinger Band? It starts to increase. Because the higher the volatility, the higher obviously the participants, the higher the price moves. So the Bollinger Band starts doing this. Measuring up the increase of that volatility. Jonas has his trading setup based on what I explained earlier. He always sells when his 1 hour candle closes above the upper trend, upper band, and does the opposite. But his high frequency trade or his expert advisor cannot see that breakout. What happens is this. Breakout. And bearish trend resumes. Remember, this is the closing, this is the closing, closing. What is happening with the Bollinger Band? I'll put it in blue so that we can see it. You do like this. And the upper band is doing like this. Gentlemen, what's happening with the closing price? It's always closing outside the lower band, giving Jonas setup a buy signal. But what's happening? The selling force is so great that the price is not correcting. And there are so much more sellers than buyers in the market that they are pushing the prices down so fast that it forces the closing price always to be outside of the upper band.
But how do you know that lower bound is the minimum lower bound that it's going to go up?
You mean regarding the Bollinger bands? It's its calculation. It's the setup of the Bollinger Band.
You said that given that the market is going down, I'm going to buy.
No. That's the mistake. When you say it's the opposite, Victoria. That's why Bollinger Band, it's very risky to use and it's very difficult to trade when you have a trend. Because prices are always closing outside of the upper band, being in the 5%. price should do what? Should get back inside the Bollinger trading range, right? Between its lower and upper band. But the volatility is so great for the seller point of view that that doesn't happen. What will happen? When you see your price here, you have a buy signal. You buy, get stopped out. Here, closed outside of the upper band, you have a buy signal. You get stopped out. Here, stopped out, it's stopped out. That's why for that setup, never use Bollinger Band during trending moves. Only during trendless movements. That's the very first thing, all right? So, as I said previously, very early in this class, first task, define the current trend. If you're not able to do that, gentlemen, please do not use indicators or oscillators. It will mess up with your view of the market. Use price action. That's it. So, first thing, use Bollinger Bands for trendless market. It's the very first indicator. Second one is stochastics. The stochastic basically shows the relationship between the closing price of the current candle against the volatility, the total volatility of prices for the past, for instance, 14 period. You have the current closing price of 20. And you have the highest and the lowest price for the past 14 periods, which are 22 and 10, for instance. Oops. 22 and 10. The stochastics will simply calculate this relationship, the distance between the closing price and the lowest, that distance in points or pips, which will be 10 pips, divided by the distance, the distance between the closing price and the upper, or the highest price for the past 14 periods, which is 2, divided by the distance between the closing price and the lowest price for the past 14 periods. Two divided by 10, 0.2, or 20%. Stochastics has another component of its formula that takes into account where the prices are, and then it will do -1, so that it will get 0.8, which is 80%. Simple as that. What that 80% means? It basically says that for the past 14 periods, 80% of the participants are buyers. So there are just too many buyers in the market. Increasing the probability for those buyers to close out their buying position, and for the sellers to step in the market. So that is a sell signal. All right? Stochastics doesn't track down trend movements. It will only work during trendless movements. The way it was created was designed exactly for trendless market. It will never work, and I'll explain you guys why it doesn't work during trending movements. Again, we have Aaron. Sorry, Aaron, is that correct, your name? Sorry. Hi. Then we have Aaron setting up a automatic trading setup based on stochastics. And he's a programmer and a trader. He goes on CC and CC+, programming language in his MetaTrader, and set up the ifs and all that. And he basically does that. Whenever the closing price of my 1 hour chart, and whenever my stochastics, it's up to 80%, sell. That's simple, right? He puts that to run in his trading account for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and he gets a huge drawdown. Remember, stochastic measures the relationship between the closing price and the highest and the lowest price for the past 14 periods. Let's understand why stochastic doesn't work during trading movements. Here we have our trading chart. Here we have stochastics. Price is in a bullish trend. So prices goes up, pushing up stochastics up to 80, right? Because it closes here. Let's just take into account that every single up movement that I draw is regarding the past 14 periods, okay? So, it's a very strong bullish trend. Prices close very close to the highest price of that 14-day movement. So stochastics here will be close to 100%. Stochastic, I'll put in red. It goes here. Literature says that when stochastics is above 80%, goes in what is called overbought region. I remember that Victoria already explained that. So when stochastic, when an oscillator goes in an overbought region, it's a sell signal, right? So guys sell. Prices corrects. Prices does a bearish correction. Push. Pushing down stochastics. Remember, the selling signal for stochastics is when stochastics goes over 80 and gets below 80. So that bearish correction pushes the stochastics below 80. Giving what? The sell signal. So you guys sell here. Bullish trend resumes, stopping you out. Pushing stochastics again in an overbought region. Then markets corrects to the past resistance as a support, which is here. Pulls back, pushing stochastics below 80. You have the sell signal. You sell here, gets stopped out. Trend resumes, pushing stochastics again over 80, and that goes on. So what will happen with your setup based on stochastics during a trading period? You get stopped out all the time. That's why it doesn't work. So, setup. First, identify the trendless movement. Oops, let me do it with bug. You have your support level, 2 quick false breakouts, you have your resistance level. Plot Bollinger bands and stochastics. Stochastics will be here. Remember, stochastic has its 80% level and its 20% level. You guys already know that. And then plot your Bollinger band. I'll put it in green. Oops, no, that's it. Okay, I'll put it in green. You have your Bollinger. The Bollinger is something like this. Over here it goes like this. That up movement, that remember the closing price, gentlemen, is reaching the resistance of your trendless movement. When you see that happen, close, preferably above the upper band of your Bollinger band. And when your stochastics it's in a overbought region, when you see the lining up of those 3 factors, risk 2% of your account. I got out of my safe zone here. Thank you, Munchel. Risk 2% of your account. You have a real probability of making money in that trend.
You mean you sell in that security?
You sell that security in that resistance. Then you have Gabriel. Gabriel doesn't like stochastic, doesn't like Bollinger band, but Gabriel sells anyway. Why he sold? He thinks in a very simple way. I show that resistance of my trendless movement. What else do I have to see? Nothing else. Alright? So that's a very nice setup to trade. It does work in every single time frame. If you have Lisa, sorry Lisa, did I pronounce her name properly? Laziza, sorry about that, Laziza. I have myopia, that's why I couldn't see properly, even though I'm wearing contact lenses. If Laziza trades that based on a 5-minute chart, it will work for her. If Jonas trades based on that in a 4-hour chart, it will work for him the same way. What's the difference between those 2 traders? Laziza will try to pick 20, 30 pips. He's a scalper. Jonas will try to get 100, 200 pips. But it will work whatever the time frame. Remember, gentlemen, if you see price, whatever the period you're trading, the time period you're trading, and that candle closes very close to the resistance of your trendless move that you identified, and Bollinger band doesn't show anything, stochastics, it's in the 50 zone, forget those indicators and oscillators and sell anyway. Alright? That setup, again, will give you a pretty much good opportunity of making money in that trade. But it doesn't happen all the time. So just sell at resistance. It will work anyway. Third setup for you guys. Last week I was quickly chatting with José, if I'm not wrong. It was him. Sorry if I'm mistaken the person. No, it wasn't him. It was another student I don't see here. And I was showing to him Victoria led the New Zealand dollar, the 5-minute New Zealand dollar in the chart on the screen. And the prices were like this. Oh, let me do this faster. In a short term, bullish move, bullish trend. And I told that student, wait, you see that bulls are in control, buyers are in control. So you gotta go along with them. You gotta ride that bullish trend. But when would you enter your buying position? Right now? Obviously, you're going to buy when a bearish correction ends. When it's going to end? It's easier. It's very easy, gentlemen. What it's not easy, it's to determine until when that bearish correction will go. For instance, then you have Fibonacci. Fibonacci measures possible levels of correction. 0%, 30%, 50%, the golden ratio, etc. Beautiful, right? I will always buy when prices correct the golden ratio of 62%. And then you create your automatic trading based on setup, put it to work in your trading account. A month, 2 months, 3 months, gets a drawdown. But why did that happen? Shouldn't it correct? Most of the time, 62%. It can correct less than that, it can correct more than that. So the biggest problem of applying Fibonacci in your trading strategy is that it doesn't answer until when it's going to correct. So throw that away. So we will never know until when prices will correct.